I'm here with Mike Davis and Coach Pete Carroll of the Las Vegas Raiders. And I'm going to read a quote that reminds me of Pete. You can do anything if you have enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is the yeast that makes your hopes rise to the stars. With it, there is accomplishment. Without it, there are only alibis. Now, Pete, I know your background. I know you. Your approach to practice, meetings, and all preparation has always been with great enthusiasm. How has this group embraced that?
Mike, thanks for having me on the show, both Mikes, and appreciate the opportunity to visit with you guys. Um, I couldn't be more pleased with the way the leaders in the locker room have embraced what we do and how we do things. Because I know we don't do things like everybody else, and I ask guys to go places that they're not used to being taken to, and it's really important to me that I can reach these guys and get across the mentality, the style of play, our outlook, the optimism that we operate with, and really the belief system that we develop so that these guys can think alike and think in a manner where we can feed off one another. So it's been really fun. I've had a blast doing it. I did a class in the springtime at USC that allowed me to go through the whole philosophy and teach it all, and it's meaningful that I was able to do that again, and then almost in preparation for coming into camp here, with our guys. And it's been a really full springtime with the players and presenting the fun that we like to have and the hard work that we live for, and how we really compete. So I've enjoyed the heck out of it. I'm really really proud to see that these guys are jumping in.
You just hit the magic word because competition and learning to compete has always been a big part of your message. From me going out to practice, and thanks for having me out a couple of times and watching the quarterbacks bowl to the boundary with the football,
Yeah.
watching the guys play a little bit of horse, the DBs after practice as they're leaving the field. Everything you do and have always done has been with competition in mind and learning how to compete. How are these guys embrace that also?
Yeah, well, it's competition is the central theme in the program, and it just has woven its way into everything that we do. You either compete or you're not, and we have some sayings, we're in a relentless pursuit of finding a competitive edge in everything we're doing, so always compete is the approach, and I've tried to make it a message for our players that goes beyond just their football, and it's just a mentality, it's an outlook, and it's a perspective that you can hold about, competition is striving, is really striving for what you want and what you're trying to get done, and in essence, it's striving in our team for excellence. And so, where would you not want to, battle? Where would you choose to not put your effort and your focus and your intentions into? And so, I just try to live it, the best way I can, and I talk it too, but I try to live it and show them, and so it gives us a way to connect and gives us a way to have verbiage and kind of guidelines to the culture that we're putting together.
Makes it fun too. Makes it fun for the guys. I know another thing that's in your mantra is technique. You're a big believer in technique. My old coach Chuck Knox used to say, "Technique wins." When you're an
Yeah.
average athlete like myself, you had to have great technique.
Oh,
Otherwise,
come on, Mike, you're much
you
better than that. What are you
you
talking
were gonna
about?
get you're gonna get your butt kicked all game. But talk about that emphasis and your belief in technique, because I know it's something that really you try to instill into these guys and your coaching staff too, and they've done a great job with it.
Well, the on Wednesdays we call that competition Wednesday,
Yeah.
to leave the game that just happened behind us and go right back to fundamentals and go right back to the basics, and get engrossed in the competition of that with the guys across the line of scrimmage from you, just to get us to constantly stay in connection with footwork and leverage and positioning and containment and all the basic fundamentals of this game. And we spend a whole day emphasizing it, and now we stay with it throughout the week. But I just want to make such a big deal about it, so it's something we always stand for. So I follow Chucky all the way, on where he came from, and I think a lot of the big time coaches that I know have influenced me have always stood for doing the basics right and fundamentals and the technique that it takes to execute the skills of this game. And so without that, I think it's you're going to get lucky sometimes and do okay, but the basics can really keep the uncommon consistency that we're seeking.
To talk to you about 41 years ago, you entered into the NFL. Can you believe it? 1985 to 89, you were with the Vikes, and 86 to 89, the colorful Jerry Burns was your head coach, your boss, and he is given credit for coining, you know where I'm going with this, coining the phrase, it's not about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmys
And
and
Joe's.
Joes. So I'm excited to hear, besides the obvious ones, who you think your Jimmys and Joes are for the Raiders in 2025. And I made a little note down here, sleepers are allowed. You're allowed to talk about some sleepers.
Well, we have really clear leadership on this club, and we're very fortunate to have that because sometimes you don't. And, I've never given up because we don't have good leadership. I always make the coaches take the role over as as the leaders until the players do. But with Gino coming in and with Max as part of this program and the background of it, we have just voices that are, you couldn't ask for more. I mean, these guys are the hardest working guys in the program. They lead on their team by the way they work and their actions and their activity and of it. And then they can follow it up and back it up and they can demand it of those around them. And so those guys are just so crucial to keeping the mentality in line and all that. But that's not all. We've got some great competitors on this team, and the guys that we've been able to put together on the defensive side of the ball, Landon Roberts and Devin White and Jamal Adams, and Pratt, Jermaine brings it too. Those guys are all kind of uniquely old school, gifted with what the game's all about. There's a younger generation to them too, that with Jeremy Chin and with Isaiah brings, and we've got a real way about us that we can build from. And it often you don't have that so clearly intact. And I'm really pumped about that to make sure that those guys are always at the front line. And Colton Miller in the time I've been here, has become a tremendous leader in the offensive line. And the attitude, that our guys bring. Jordan Meredith is just a grinder, and Parm and also the toughness that JPJ brings. So those guys, they're tempo setters, and they set the standards for how hard we work and how tough we are and how far we want to take it. Because we're trying to walk the freaking line, man. We're trying to take it as far as we can in every aspect of what we're doing. And to do that, you have to be willing, to get out there where it's not comfortable sometimes, and we have to operate that way. I've been thrilled, Mike, by the closeness of our games in preseason, even the mock game, came down to the last play. I was hoping last night we would get it right down to the last play one more time, so that would be the only way we knew how to deal with it, And but it's given me real opportunities for teachable moments to capture the mentality that it takes to finish really well, and then to be a team that believes and knows that you can win on the last play of the game, and that's why there ain't no time to give it up, it ain't ever over. And so it's been really a thrill with these guys. Now we have some young guys too. The draft class brings us some guys that are going to be a factor in here too. I'm excited about both the offensive linemen and the couple defensive linemen that we brought in. Those guys are all going to be in the rotations, and have a chance to play. It's a little bit harder for us to rotate on the offensive side of the ball, but Charles has done a nice job. Caleb Rogers has done a nice job too, battling day in and day out. And so those are some of the guys that have come out. Another guy to mention to you is Ian Thomas has done a really, really good job at tight end. And where we already have two terrific players, Ian has really added, to make that position about as strong as any position in the NFL could be. So we have some real strengths to build on.
Yeah, I love it. I was going to ask you what you're most fired up about with my last question, but you already hit on it. But what do you guys think? What do you think coming out of the blocks you're going to be good at? So I'll change that last question. What do you
Yeah,
think
I got you.
blocks you're going to be good at?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to be well equipped to play the running game. on the defensive side, we made a big commitment to base defense and the concepts that it takes to to secure the line of scrimmage and not get run around on, and so that's an important part of our makeup. There's no question if we protect Gino, he's going to throw the football, and so we've worked hard at our protections, we've worked hard at blitz pickups and all of that stuff that allows him to be clean in the pocket. When he's clean, he'll rip you up now. He ain't gonna miss very many balls, and so. He makes great decisions, and he's got a great arm, and he's got terrific background and sense. So we're going to be able to throw the ball well. What will make the difference in this football team was our ability to run the ball. I think our ability to run the football and be a threat and keep us well-rounded as a football team will come from the work of those the guys up front. Uh, we've really been pleased with Genty. He's done great and been physical and tough. We know we've seen the elusive and all that, but to see him be so tough, game in and game out here when he gets his chances, there's no doubt that he's a great competitor. So, he'll give us leadership in that spot just by his style of play. But those guys behind him now, I really like the way we ran last night with Raheem and you saw Zeus get his shots in there. He pounded the line of scrimmage, which I'm really in favor of showing. We showed them off a little bit last night, and to just try to guarantee that we had what we wanted. And so, yeah, there's a lot to build on here.
Yeah, when those guys square their shoulders to the line of scrimmage, they get downhill. I like that.
Yeah,
That gets
yeah.
me excited. I'm an old school guy, so that gets me excited. Hey, I
I
really
was just
appreciate
trying to charge you up a little bit. I kind of knew that,
that.
Mike.
Yeah, I got goosebumps, man. Hey, you need an old blocking tight end. I'll be over there tomorrow. But listen, I'm going to turn it over to Mike. He's got a couple questions for you that are not like coaching questions like I threw at you. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you let me come out to practice and watch you guys. You guys really
Keep
work
coming
hard.
out.
All right,
You're
brother.
always
Thank
welcome,
you.
Mike. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, man.
I'll be the average athlete, and I'll stay away from the X's and O's because Coach, you've always inspired me so much with your leadership, and I just love so many of the philosophical things you bring to the table. Speaking with John Kabat-Zinn and talking about leading with love and all the stuff you do with compete. To create with Dr. Gervais and just all those kinds of things, even writing the forward to the re-release of the inner game of tennis. So a lot of those a lot of those intangibles and that culture and that leadership that you instilled in Seattle that changed the course of that franchise. I'm so curious when you came to Vegas and you came to the Raiders, an organization I feel that was desperate for a lot of those things. I'm so curious how you instilled and brought that to the table. And if you could, I just geek out on the self-help stuff. And I'm so curious how you kind of instituted some of those things and the inner workings of what's going on behind the scenes with a lot of that.
Yeah, well, Mike, I appreciate you, recognizing that there is a lot of background to what we stand for here and what I'm teaching, and it goes way back. It goes back to some days back in my graduate days in school at Pacific, where we got in connection with some amazing kind of teachers, and leaders in the field of performance. And what it really comes down to me now is it's the language of high performances that we speak to, and that's why we had Dr. Gervais in last week just to kind of share other like his delivery of kind of the same principles that we talked about, but there's a lot to it. And to me, I'm telling the guys all the time that everything that I'm teaching it has to do with high performance, and I'm trying to help them find their way to be the best they can possibly be, and that takes a lot of inner work, and it takes a lot of self-discovery, and our coaches have to help kind of manage our guys through that process because not everybody has really walked through that, and so. It doesn't matter how young you are, how old you are. A lot of people haven't gone through that process, but it's a crucial process to get to know who you are. And then all we want from them is to be the best version of themselves. And so that sounds easy and okay, that's great, or maybe sound airy fairy even, but that ain't easy to do now. You got to figure out who you are, what you stand for, what your uncompromising principles are all about, what's important to you, how do you envision yourself, and how do you envision your future, and all of those things get put together. So it gives us kind of a roadmap of how to lead and direct guys to find their best. And so it just happens to go way back in the day, and it's carried over from a lot of really important influences that I was, led into years and years ago. And there was a time, I had all that equipment with me, but I didn't know really how to put it on the field, you know. And then after the New England job was over, in that year after that, that's really when I got my act together, and I went through the same thing about self-discovery and trying to figure out how to define myself and all that kind of stuff, so that I could get at the essence and the truth of what I believed in, and then I hoped that that would give me a path to follow and to walk. And the next thing that happens, we went to USC. So, it worked out okay, and so that same thing happened, or that same process took place in Seattle, and that same process is taking place right now. And so there's a wealth of things I'm trying to get across to the fellas, and I try to, orchestrate it along the way and use the moments as they come and try to create the moments. And that's why competition is so important. I can put guys in situations where they have to show themselves, and they got to compete right in front of the whole team, and the clock is ticking, and they got shoot-offs and and knockouts and all kinds of stuff that we do. It's just to continue to immerse them in an environment of competing and getting them comfortable with it, and bringing their take on it, their outlook on how they want to show themselves when they're in difficult situations. Because this game's hard, and just like we've shown, our games all come down right to the end, and I want our guys to be at their best when we finish. So. You have to get through that experience and the mentality of it and what it takes to stay focused. And again, I go back to Dr. Gervais when he talked about how crucial it is to be able to focus and bring all of your attention to the moment that's at hand. And so that's all kind of the stuff that we teach. And there's a process to it. And like I said, I had a chance to teach it to a bunch of graduating seniors, at SC, and to see how they took to it. And it wasn't any different than teaching the players. And so um, I've had a few runs at it, and I'm always excited about it because I like the process and I like what it generates in terms of their interaction and what we expect of them to show themselves and to discover who they are. And then we have to likewise take all of that and discover who we are as a team. It's the same process for the team as it is for the individual, really. And so that's what this is about. And it's been really, really fun. And it doesn't have to be hard work and just this diligence that isn't found in the fun of it all. We found a way to make it fun and competitive, and these guys seem to take to it.
Yeah, I always appreciate when there's that mind and body connection, and there's a lot of thought that goes into that. And last thing to ask you here is, I when you were announced and Tom Brady and you guys linking up together, I think a lot of people always maybe mistake Brady's intensity, but I think his intensity is a connection to enthusiasm, like you, and that intentionality and that drive. And you guys are so similar. And I think it's a beautiful thing to have two leaders who are that connected with enthusiasm, energy, and tension, bringing that all to the table. So I'm so curious, what has it been like working alongside him? What has his impact, and how has that been felt so far? And what do you think that combination, that winning combo of you and him, and even John Spytek, who I wasn't super familiar with, when you and him got going at that introductory presser, it was just a beautiful thing, and you could see how in sync you guys are all together. And so that whole trifecta, I think, for Raiders fans is going to be something beautiful on the horizon. Could you give us a little sense of just how you work together with Tom, and how that impact is being shown?
Yeah, well, it's been of great fortune, for me to have a chance to get together with Tom. That was really the impetus for me being excited about this opportunity here, was that Tom was going to be involved, knowing that Tom is one of the great competitors that has ever lived, and we really see eye to eye. I mean, competition kind of brings you together, you're either competing or you're not, and Tom is constantly on it. And so our conversations and our interaction has been, for us, it's been like as fun as you can get, because everything we're looking at is how can we get better? How can we help somebody do this or do that in better fashion? From the players, the coaches, the building, the administration, everybody that is involved. We kind of have standard that I think is like as high as you can get. And Tom is the best of all time, and so I feel very fortunate to be connected to him. He's been absolutely open to talk at any time. When we go back and forth, we send messages, we text, we're sending clips and things that we see that are inspiring or that are moving or that are disturbing or what, about the area that we're trying to help these guys be champions, and so um, he is afar, he's not here very often, but when he is, it's obvious. He did have one time when he addressed the team, and it was an extraordinary hour of Tom Brady, and we sync and weave, our messaging so clearly. He's a great support for the program, and he helps me as well. He doesn't need a whole lot of help. He's kind of got it nailed on his end, but he certainly has been a factor already and will continue to be. And his opportunity and ability to mentor guys on our team has already, taken place. And so he's a big deal. And I wish, he could be here more and be more available, but we certainly take him whenever we can get him.
Listen, you talk about big deals, you're a big deal. I'm really excited to live in a community where you're the head football coach. I'll be there tomorrow. Can I not weigh in? Would that be okay if I don't?
There'll be no weigh-ins. There'll be no weigh-ins for Tice.
We appreciate it. Hey, Pete,
Promise.
I know you're busy as all hell. We appreciate your time, man. Hope to do this again at some point during this winning season.
All right, Mike and Mike. Thanks, man.
All right, man.
Appreciate
Be
it.
good.
Thanks,
See ya.
Coach.
Bye-bye.